Hello, dear leaders. How are you today? I'm happy to meet you all in this week's podcast on Biblical Leadership Institute. Please subscribe and share with your friends and family so they can also be blessed by the videos. You can also read and share my latest book on leadership. I will post the Amazon purchase link in the description below. Well, we all know Jesus as a compassionate, loving, and patient God. But do you know that even Jesus, not once, but more than once, lost his temper? Many of us struggle with anger issues, correct? And it usually makes us a little embarrassed of ourselves because we proudly hold our Christian faith emblem on one hand and at the same time react rudely or insensitively, also based on circumstances. Today, I will try and help you overcome and also understand biblically and practically that anger is not always wrong. Confused? Let's talk more on the other side. Jesus made a whip out of ropes, overturned the tables of the money changers, and chased them out of the house of God, yelling, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my father's house into a market." Isn't it very unusual for someone like Jesus to behave like that? I know we have so many questions like, how can God himself get angry? Isn't anger a sin? How can I control my anger, etc.? Here are some observations about anger that can help you evaluate your situation and probably react appropriately henceforth. Let's see. First of all, remember, anger is not always bad. Yes, contrary to the popular Christian opinion that we should always put on a smile, never frown, etc., anger is a natural phenomenon and should not be treated as a sin all the time. Almost every living thing on the earth displays some form of anger. If you are someone with anger issues and not able to control it, please understand that anger is an emotion and it's always healthy to display an emotion instead of trying to contain it within. Look at Jesus himself. He expressed his emotions, sometimes anxiety just before his crucifixion, sometimes sadness. He wept for Lazarus, right? And once in a while, even anger. Ecclesiastes 3:4 says, "A time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance." So keep in mind that anger is an emotion and it's not always wrong to display it. Secondly, before we assume that anger is acceptable or biblical, always remember what makes you angry. Again, let's look at Jesus' reaction at the temple of God. What do you think irritated him? He just couldn't stand the sight of people disrespecting the sacredness of the temple of God. It is a place of worship where people come to pray and thank God, not a place to usurp money by taking advantage of others' plight. That made Jesus upset and angry. Please note, he walked on the streets and marketplaces and there were so many businesses around him, but that never triggered the anger in him. At the same time, the businessmen at the temple did because of their lack of concern and reverence for the temple of God. So what's important is not whether you're angry or not. Instead, what you are angry at. Imagine you're walking on the road and you witness a child being bullied by others. You would obviously get angry at the sight of that, and your anger should ideally drive you to put your foot forward and stand for the bullied child. If you notice you were angry, but for something worth being angry for. So always make sure your anger is directed towards something unjust or unacceptable. Isaiah 1:17, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Thirdly, how long does your anger last? Jesus, after his moment of anger, is seen talking to the Jews at the temple about his death and resurrection, and surprisingly, his anger had subsided then. The mark of a great godly person is that they genuinely get angry at things that go against their conscience, but quickly calm down because they know that their anger has served a purpose and it's time to get back to be normal. We all know the Bible verse I'm hinting at, Ephesians 4:26, do not let the sun go down in your anger, which simply means let not your anger carry on longer than it's supposed to. If you're angry over something and for a noble reason, take the effort to quickly revert back to your real polite self. Let your anger subside as soon as possible. Lastly, has your anger created value? Like many other things in our life, everything we do should end up creating some value for ourselves or others or even both. You know how I keep repeating the fact that we need to practice what we believe in our everyday life. The key here is creating some value even with our anger. Jesus' fit of rage ended up clearing the mess created by the money-hungry businessman and helped reinstate the reverence of the temple of God. So the question for you is, what does your anger end up creating? If it's of noble value, you should be proud of it, whereas if it's not, you might want to evaluate your anger and seek God's help in solving it. Romans 12:21, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. In summary, anger is an emotion, and just as we heard, it's perfectly okay to get angry, provided it is used for the right reasons, lasts only a short while, and creates value that is beneficial to us and others. But always remember the thumb rule that you should never act unkind or rude with the excuse of being angry for the right reasons. Ephesians 4:26, in your anger, do not sin. I hope you would take this opportunity to introspect on how often and why you get angry and see if it is right before God. And until I meet you next week, this is John signing off. God bless you.